Hello, Guilty Feminist. This is a little content warning just to say that in our wellness episode today, there are points when we discuss weight loss, but only in context of how we can sometimes get into a mental battle that we don't want to be in when we begin exercising. We're not advocating weight loss. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm a feminist, but I'm currently obsessed with soft furnishings and I'm not even apologetic about it.
Very nice. Oh, that's very nice. And what we talking, cushions, or we're going like a bit mainly cushions? Is
after the year
throws?
we've had.
Throws or pelmets is a word I like to say, but don't know what it means.
That kind of thing, not a pelmet in particular, but I've bought some cushions off the internet.
Okay,
is what I'm talking
lovely.
about.
Well, good for you.
I'm just so sick of looking at the same thing, Jess.
Yeah.
I can't, and everything's looking tatty. And I realised I first decorated when I moved in here 10 years ago. And I just thought, I haven't had a new cushion in 10 years. Everything just started to look tatty and the cats had ripped it all up. And I just thought, if I look at something different, if I have different colours, I'll feel like I'm somewhere else.
Yeah. I think it's potentially quite important to do. I've never given even a sort of quark of a fuck about soft furnishings, but for the first time ever, I've got a partner who does. And so now it looks like I live somewhere that someone cares about. And it's really lovely. Now I've experienced that. No offence to my mum, who 100% would argue she's also one of those people. But but there was a pressure on it when it was your parent. I remember coming home and if everything did look all nice, I remember once she was sort of looking at me, desperate to say something, and I was like, "Are you about to ask me to sit more tidily?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I am actually. I desperately am." It's like, well,
just because you're a feminist, Jess, doesn't mean you have to sit like one.
I was a very untidy sitter as a child.
Yeah.
I'm a feminist, but I have raised a 5-year-old so sexist that he started calling me bruv.
Wow. Bruv.
Yeah, not even muv. Bruv. He's 5.
Wow. Cindy B's teenagers, I believe, do that, but a 5-year-old, that's some good work. That's some strong work.
Absolutely out of nowhere. On no irony.
Does he say at the end, "No irony, mother"?
No, mother.
No irony, bruv.
He's growing up in Catford. Debs, he'll never say mother.
No irony, bruv. I'm a feminist, but last night I felt like a failure because everything I ordered off the internet was ugly. Really, really ugly. Look, in the pictures, it's like a vibrant purple with beautiful, it looks like damask, and then it comes and it's just cheap, it's ugly. I mean, honestly, I really thought I'd lost my touch for decorating. I'd ordered some really hideous things, and that's all has to go back. I just ordered so much ugly stuff, and I tried to be bold. Okay, I'll tell you the truth. Susan Wakoma, very close friend of mine, has been decorating her flat in very bold, glorious colours. I thought I could do a Susie Wakoma. I wasn't nicking her colours, just to be clear. I'm a feminist. I would never do that to her.
I've done that. Is there something wrong with that? I've done, my friend's had a garden done and she's got brick walls and she's painted them all white, in her own words, like an Ibiza nightclub. And I was like, well, I'll just do that then. Is that bad to do?
It depends. Are the same people going to her house and your house? I don't know. I don't think Susie wants to come over and find her.
No, you can't make a replica home to your friend's home because that's a bit...
It's a bit single white female.
Creepy, yeah.
If she comes over and it's like, this is my exact, because it's quite distinct what she's done with wallpaper and block colours and stuff like that. If I had nicked her wallpaper, she'd be like,
You got all the same clothes as me, Debs. Yeah, no. Take it. Yeah,
I mean, a white wall. I think you can nick a white wall because a white wall isn't very no. You can't paint a white wall.
No, you can't. And the friend that's done that is, I've never been to an Ibiza nightclub. I don't. It's weird that I even get the reference. Really?
No, to be honest, I just laughed along. I haven't either. I'm going for the context.
Just a couple of dweebs hosting a podcast. Who'd have thought
those racy nights in Ibiza when I pulled all those gentlemen.
Yes, I hate nightclubs, Debs. I like board games.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too. Honestly, I never enjoyed them. I just pretended.
Yeah.
Now I'm of the era where I just don't have to fucking pretend anymore. I started, because the actress who plays Lucille in Arrested Development died, And I thought, I'll rewatch some of Arrested Development because, you know, I love that actress. I remember the first time I watched it, which must have been 10 years ago or something, I was admiring all of Portia de Rossi's clothes. And this time, I've really caught myself a few times going, oh, I wonder where Lucille got that blazer. I'm like genuinely admiring Lucille's trouser suits. And I'm like, oh, shit. I've tipped it. I couldn't even tell you what Portia de Rossi was wearing. Couldn't even tell you that she's got some lovely blazer. I'm going into a blazer preppy. I just feel I need something. I feel I need to look different on the outside because I feel different on the inside. So I thought I'll go into a preppy blazer stage. But I think I just look like I'm in school uniform. It's not working.
No. Go for it. Okay, I'm a feminist.
I just look like I work in a call centre.
No, you don't look like Deborah.
I'm failing at everything at the moment.
I'm afraid, Deborah, that I would never, ever consider even sending you the casting call for the part of person that works in a call centre, because I'm sorry to tell you that whatever outfit of clothes you wear, you will never achieve that look, even if you actually desperately wanted to.
I have worked in a call centre and I wouldn't be too proud to work in a call centre again if
There's
needed.
nothing wrong with working in a call centre.
But
you've got
mortgage advisor?
No! Deborah! No. CEO vibes, babes. I'm sorry.
All right.
You're undone by your own success. I'm a feminist, but I've got a 5-year-old so sexist that yesterday he said, Mummy? And I said, yeah. And he went, you look like an accident. You look like an accident, he said, Debs, to me.
Did he mean your parents hadn't meant to have you? Or
Yeah, and the cruel thing is, I am an accident.
He knows how to twist that knife. That 5-year-old knife.
My mum was very much 7 months pregnant with me during the very much rushed and not wanted marriage to my dad. Yeah,
Wow.
Very much an accident. Yep.
Well, let's not say an accident. Let's say a surprise.
He's good at, every now and again he says something, and it might be rude, but it is spot on. It was like once in the park, he shouted at a Dalmatian, and I don't know if you know anyone with Dalmatians, but they're quite proud of their special dogs. And he bellowed at a Dalmatian, "You looks like a tiny cow!" And the owner hated that. But again, it's not miles off, is it?
No.
Yeah.
This is the thing. The worst insults are the ones where you fear they're true. I'm a feminist, but my friend just told me he was having a stents night, which is a cross between a stag night and a hen night. In other words, he was inviting his female friends on his stag night.
Yeah,
and he called it a stens night. And my friend and I said, we prefer a slags night.
Lovely. Very nice.
If you're listening
that's fine.
internationally, a stag night is a bachelor party and a hen night is a bachelorette party.
Or Bucks night, some type people call it, don't they?
In Australia.
Yeah.
A bucks night, yeah.
God, that's embarrassing. I'm a feminist, but I know that because of watching Married at First Sight Australia. Oh, God, what have I done with my life? Don't tell anyone. I've got a degree. Debs, I'm a feminist, but I've raised a 5-year-old so sexist that, and I've actually remembered something sexist that he did when he was 2, but I don't think I've ever shared it on the podcast, and I think it might be one of my favourite ever sexisms from him. He was 2 years old. We'd gone to visit friends who had similar age kids, and I'm a feminist, and the other kids' mum and I were drinking alcohol in the garden and leaving them to it. Inside, they were playing with, amongst other things, a big jar of coins, like coppers, basically, change. What my son did at 2 years old is filled all his pockets of his shorts, it was the summer, with tons and tons of 1 and 2p coins, and came back out to the garden with his pockets like bulging, and just stood in front of us and went, "I'm a man with money." That's amazing, isn't it? Already that confidence and swagger, and knowing the power of the old Benjamins.
We can only thank you for inventing and raising another in a series of white men.
God. I'm sorry.
No. Hashtag not all white men. He might grow up to be David Attenborough. We don't know. It could be David Attenborough.
He likes us. I'm trying to think of anything I've done right, really, with him. And I'm clutching at straws, but he doesn't like, at least he really likes a nice squidgy tummy. He thinks a tummy's not a tummy if you can't get a sort of handle on it. And that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's what he's looking for when he hits Tinder or whatever it is then. It'll probably just be a chip in your head then when you can just conjure the other person up.
Yeah.
Or maybe people would just date robots designed for them, artificial intelligence, boyfriends and girlfriends and non-binary friends, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be okay with that. Whatever it is, I'll try not to be a grandma about it. I'll try and go, well, that's what you young people like to do. And it was different in my day, but I'm not going to crush and squash what you do because it was different in my day. I'll try and be like that. I'll be dressed as Lucille Bluth. Everyone will be happy. From a variety of bedrooms and kitchens via Zoom, the Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Jessica Fostekew, and our very special guests, Jonelle Lewis, Dr. Stacie CC Graham, Mia Togo, and Aisha Nash, talking about wellness.
Woo! Woo! Yeah.
This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and the hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. I'm Deborah Frances-White. With me is Jessica Fostekew, and we're talking about wellness. Now, Jessica Fostekew, how are you? Are you well?
Fine. Yeah, I am. Yes, a mixture.
A mixture.
How are you?
A mixed bag.
Yes, a mixed bag, a pick and mix.
A pick and mix, yeah.
Yes.
I feel the same. I've been so good for the last couple of months at sort of sustaining for me, I feel like in lockdown, all the energy's got to come from you all the time.
Yeah.
There's no way to go out and get a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Like right. Yeah. You can't go and buy any energy.
Out. Yeah. And I'd see people and I'd bring home some energy, or I'd go to a yoga class and I'd bring home some energy. But the constant need to generate positivity, motivation, happiness in a sort of home distillery.
Yeah.
And not be able to go to the happiness pub, as it were.
Yeah, which is just the pub, isn't it? Yes.
Very much so, if you're from London, yes.
But I think we particularly, poor us, tiny violins, Debs, but we particularly suffer because we're both extroverts who do energise off the company of others. Whereas, lots of people, including my partner, are introverts. And actually, even they are like, I've had enough now I've recharged enough. I've had enough of the solitude, actually.
Yes, I think that's right, because I'm an extrovert, Tom's an introvert overall. I mean, Tom's an outgoing introvert, but he gets his energy from home time. But he is, I think, quite keen for some out time. But then also yesterday, I had a bit of a meltdown.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I did have a bit of a meltdown last night and just suddenly felt, I just felt inadequate. And that awful, this is a sort of, I wouldn't normally say this in the podcast, but I'm at that point of lockdown. I've got no material from outside, so I'm going to have to tell you what's going inside of me, gang. And
just forced to overshare by a lack of external inspiration.
Literally nothing else to say except the truth, and I'm reduced to the truth, Jess.
That's been my entire stand-up career, Deborah, but not born out of a pandemic. Just born out of a lack of creativity.
No,
all I've had
that's
to
not
draw
true.
upon is my own. My Wikipedia page is all true. That's how much I overshare. For fuck's sake, I'm livid.
Okay, I'm a feminist, but once at a panel show, I came on. I don't know why, Jess, but panel shows mean they bring on my cycle. Probably the anxiety.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, every time. Wasn't expecting it. On comes the old. Aunt Flo comes to town. I'm a feminist, but I can't believe I've just said Aunt Flo comes to town. But
I know. Actually, I think it's pretty on brand, Debs, and I really enjoyed it.
And I said, is there any chance anybody's got anything? Because I haven't brought anything. And the producer said, I think I've got a tampon. And the runner said, she doesn't use tampons. And I thought, I have overshared on this podcast. And the runner she was so lovely, but she was a big fan of the show. And she was like really excited to meet me. And I was like, and I've talked about how they're not comfortable for me. I need a very small speculum at the gynecologist. I have shared that I had a lot of people writing to me saying, don't worry, you're normal, so have I. And I was like, TMI, I have shared and shared and shared. But I just had a bit of a crisis of confidence last night. Felt like, what have I done in the last year? What have I got to show for it? I've wasted time. And the thing is, I haven't wasted time. I've worked really hard.
You've done absolutely loads and learnt to dance. I heard.
And which brings me to wellness. So I really did struggle last night, and I think that ability to self-propel is just sometimes very difficult, you know.
Very difficult.
I take on too much all of the time. Then I'm overworked. Then I'm exhausted, and that goes on in a terrible loop forever. But I cried in hypnotherapy. That's an uptown problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all the way uptown. What a middle-class problem that is. I cried in hypnotherapy.
Quite near the top of town, isn't it, actually? That.
Really right up the top of town, yeah.
But it's still... I am still sorry that you had a mega wobble, because it's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible, scary feeling. But it does pass, doesn't it? And I'm not belittling the feeling.
So. Yeah, I cancelled personal training, which I never do.
Did you do it in a way that felt empowering, or did you do it in a way that felt guilty? Because it's really hard to get that mixture right, isn't it?
It felt I did a bit of a, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, that sort of, I'm just too tired. What's the point? Yeah. And that's not like me. I haven't cancelled personal training once in lockdown. Not once. I do it 4 times a week, and I dance 6 days a week, and I do personal training 4 days a week. And I haven't cancelled it once. I mean, I've cancelled it because strategically I've cancelled it. I've cancelled it because I feel a bit injured. I've overdone it, or this is happening on that day. Do you know what? I'm going to cut down a day this week. But I haven't gone, what's the point? And I've just hit that wall of going, what's the point? But also I need to sleep in a bit. So that, if I'm being completely honest, and I'm sharing this, and I think I'm sharing it because I don't like people thinking I'm not coping. Yeah. I don't like people thinking I'm not powering on. I don't like, you know, sometimes people share Facebook posts where they go, I'm really had enough. And, and I'm like, don't put that out there. Like that's for your intimate few. But I
agree,
think
but that's a different thing, I think, I think that's a different thing, taking to social media to say, I mean, not to say I need help. I mean, if you need, if it's come to that, but a constant use of social media to say I'm struggling it's looking for reassurance from a mass of strangers instead of anyone. And it's not, if it's not, it doesn't feel effective. It just makes an enormous, it just sort of spreads worry and doesn't help fix the issue, does it? That's a very different thing to having a conversation with, on your podcast that's about wellness, about your wellness right now. Yeah. That's a very different thing.
Yeah. And this is not to judge anyone who does that, by the way. Like, if some people, that may be the way that they can reach out. So this is not me. It's more me going, I always want to be putting out a shop front of positivity and achievement. Yeah. And I'm aware that therefore people could be.
See how funny? I'd be way more embarrassed of admitting that. I pretend I haven't got a shop front, Debs. I'm just contents.
This is where we're at. I'm admitting I've got a shop front. If you've never heard me admit I've got a shop front before, but that's where we're at. We're at the point in lockdown where I'm out there.
Deborah's showing you a shop front.
I know I've got an awning, and I know that awning says, what, a powerhouse. Yeah, I'm out there. I'm doing it all. I'm living it up. I'm including. I'm included, certainly. Of course I'm included. I'm the includer. I know that's what my shop front says. And I think sometimes people see me.
Do you remember that song, Debs? Informer. You know, sort of, do you remember that song?
Yes, I do.
That would be, you should get that redone, but called Include. And then, but keep in the one line, leaky bum bum down, because leaky bum bum down was the best lyric of all time.
I don't think that's what the lyric was it?
It was leaky really? Bum bum down. Can I get some backup here? It was leaky bum bum down. Excuse me. Tweeting.
Well, listen, your shop front is certainly one that knows the lyrics to 90s songs, and I don't want to take that.
I know the lyrics to 90s songs and just all the different types of dungaree. That's my shop front.
It's a great shop front. I think people think I'm not lonely. I think people think I'm not racked with self-doubt. I think people think I have probably, if I'm honest, they probably think I never have meltdowns about my body image, that I'm sorted, because I wrote in my book about my journey and my relationship with my body that wasn't good when I was young, but now I take my body on dates to yoga classes and I check in with it, and I love my legs because my legs get me from A to B, and that's how I focus on them, and I don't now look at my legs and think, stupid legs.
Yeah.
Why do you have to be like that? That's all true on good days.
Yeah. That's the same for anyone. I think, honestly, I don't beat yourself up for not. No, I don't think the world. No,
I'm not beating myself up. I'm just. I'm having a bit of a confession where I'm saying, if you ever look at me as a listener and think, she's got it sorted. She loves her thighs. that's only true on good days.
Yeah.
If it looks like I'm never lonely and surrounded by a coterie of fabulous individuals, all of whom adore me and I adore them, and I'm always throwing my head back in laughter, completely socially connected and surrounded by people who adore me, it's just not always the case. There's a lot of times when I don't feel those things. So I'm confessing that in my efforts to share that wellness is a full-time job.
Yeah.
And it is a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah. It's
And
not a permanent static state, is it? It's a journey.
Hopefully over my life. Look, what I've been trying to do in the last year is go up. But it's a bumpy... What do you call this, Jess?
It looks like your hand is doing the dance, the worm.
But in an upward curve. There's a name for this graph.
Sorry. An aspiring worm. Ascending worm. It's an ascending worm. That's your wellness
it's a graph
journey.
Where overall you're going up.
Yeah.
But you're going up and down with bumps. So as the gradient goes up overall, there's a lot of down. It feels sometimes like you're sliding backwards, but actually overall, I've definitely progressed this year. I've had some therapy. I've done a lot of dancing, which I couldn't do before. I'm fitter. I'll tell you one thing. I've always wanted to be able to run up the steep bit of Primrose Hill.
Oh.
So if you're a global listener...
It's a snazzy park with a steep bit.
You might be from South London, not be to Primrose Hill. I don't know why. You'd have to be global not to have seen it.
I'm South East London, and I don't think I have been to the steep bit of Primrose Hill, but I can visualise it.
Well, when you get to the steep bit of Primrose Hill, I walk up it often because you get to the top, you see the whole of London, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I'm sort of huffing and puffing up Primrose Hill, I see people run up Primrose Hill next to me. They're running up Primrose Hill, the really steep bit.
Yep.
And I've always thought I'd love to be able to run up Primrose Hill. And years ago when I was doing lots of, I was in a bit of an exercise phase, I really tried to run up Primrose Hill and I could never do it. I was thinking, who are these people? And the other day, Tom and I went for a walk to Primrose Hill. And I just saw the steep bit and I thought, after all this work I've done this year, like exercising and dance, it just sounds like work. It's not really work. I've played, dance is play. I thought, I wonder if I could run. I'm just curious to see. I'm not going to make myself run up. I don't. It's not sort of like a marker of success or failure. I'm just curious to see. And I just didn't. Tom was in the middle of a very important sentence, and I just handed him my bag and went, "Hold this," and just took off up the hill, and I ran to the top of Primrose Hill.
Yes, Dad!
Yes, didn't even know I was going to do it, and it turns out I can now run to the top of Primrose Hill. So there's that.
Get in.
There's that. Did I feel like a winner last night? No, I felt like the biggest loser on the planet. But last weekend I ran up Primrose Hill. So
yeah, swings and roundabouts.
It's very much swings and it's very much, let us be clear, roundabouts.
Yeah. And ascending worms.
Lovely
stuff, Debs.
Hello, Guilty Feminist. This is Deborah. Lockdown is finally lifting and things are getting back to normal. So for the first time in what seems like forever, we're actually able to record an episode of The Guilty Feminist in front of a live audience, albeit a small socially distanced one. So if you're in London on Monday, the 17th of May, and you want to see us record an episode of the podcast live, you can get tickets now by going to kingsplace.co.uk or by following the link in the show notes. And if you aren't in London, but you'd like to be part of the fun, then there will be live stream tickets available as well. That's 7:30, 17th of May at King's Place in London. See you there. I can't wait to see you in person.
Our first guest today is a yoga teacher and mentor with a focus on movement and spiritual practice. She teaches in an inclusive and accessible way, encouraging empowered practice. Please welcome Jonelle Lewis. Hello, Jonelle.
Hello. Hey, how are you?
Welcome back.
I know, right?
I know. Here, we promised to do this catch-up episode to see where we were and where you were, so as not just to leave this dangling and go, we've covered it. And we're so happy to have you back. She is joined by a coach, writer, and yogini who supports companies, teams, and individuals in reaching their fullest potential. Her holistic wellness brand, Oya, Body, Mind, Spirit Retreats is dedicated to underrepresented communities, typically underserved by the mainstream wellness industry. Please welcome Dr. Stacie CC Graham.
Woo!
Yay!
Thank you very much. Hi. Thank you for the invitation. I'm a feminist, but
yes,
I've bought my first pair of peachy pink pants, as you like to say in this country.
I've knickers.
Yay!
Knickers.
Nice.
I don't know how I feel about them yet.
Have they got a little bow on the front?
They came in like a multi-pack, and I was like, whoa, this is very pink.
Yeah.
Nice.
Are you wearing those pink knickers now?
Nope.
Sorry, it's not that kind of podcast. That sounds like heavy breathing, isn't it?
I was going to say, don't tell me you could get away with asking that.
Carry knickers. That's not right. That's not right at all. Don't. That's enough for a Me Too situation.
Yeah.
Our third guest is a yoga teacher and life coach who speaks out on the importance of therapy and inner work when addressing our own internal racial biases and the problem of spiritual bypass in modern yoga. Please welcome Mia Togo. Mia?
Thanks. Well, thank you so much for having me back, and I'm excited to be here. And I was thinking, kind of like Stacie, I'm a feminist, but my first day of lockdown, I went, instead of yoga meditation, I went to my favorite store and bought some, and I have mine on actually, skittled colored like pastel jumpers. So I'm like really indulging all of my feminine, pastel-y, I feel like an Easter egg, actually, but I'm going with it.
I like it a lot. I think it's working for you. You're certainly bringing the spring.
I'm doing my best.
And as discussed, I look like I'm in school uniform. And we have a registered yoga teacher and a professionally trained pastry chef who regularly speaks about the history of diet culture and its impact upon our lives. Please welcome Aisha Nash.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, thank you for being here.
I'm a feminist, but I've spent a lot of time on home furnishing websites. All the boxes.
Is it the nesting nature of lockdown that we have to make our nest a bit more homely? I used to rush in and out. I mean, our flat's nice, but I used to rush in and out and I wouldn't really have noticed. I would never have got bored of our cushions. I wasn't here enough. But now, my God. Jonelle, do you have an I'm a Feminist but? Because I feel you didn't get to do one.
I have a lot of I'm a feminist, but if we're talking about children, she's probably going to kill me for saying this. It's like, I'm a feminist, but like I'm insisting. My daughter's doing homeschooling and some of her outfit choices, I'm like, can you show up for Zoom school a little bit better than that? You are looking terrible. You know, it's like, she's like, but I should feel comfortable. I'm like, no. You're doing good at Zoom school. You want these people to be your friends when you have to see them in real life. And I've been like a real Zoom fascist. I'm like, you turn up, you are together at the Zoom.
Are you planning Zoom outfits for your daughter?
I mean, and my daughter's the one, like, I'm usually the one that's like looking a little bit crazy, right? And it's flip-flop the other way. I'm like at Zoom, I've got like my hair done, my hair wrapped, sitting like I've been up for hours with the ring light on. And no, I don't plan her clothes. She'd die if I tried to plan her clothes. I don't do that anymore. And when I did, she complained that I made her look like a boy because I put her in unisex things. And she was like, I thought I was a boy when I was small. I was like, no one cares about that. I'm like, gender is a construct. You're
I think it's a good call, actually, for small children to be a little androgynous because that way not a lot is imposed upon them. And then they start telling you, hey, I'm more femme than this.
Yeah, but
they choose
They
it.
start telling you when they're like one. They're like, I'm not wearing those shoes. Yeah. How old is your daughter, Jonelle?
She's 16, going on 35.
Fine.
16. But she used to like love Bob the Builder. Like she would do she wanted to hammer and knock. And I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Like Bob the Builder, no Barbie. I'm all right with that.
Apparently children change at different ages. I don't understand it. I don't have them, but I hear that. Based in London, our musical guest tours internationally as a performer, educator, youth worker, and social entrepreneur. She's a singer-songwriter, sarangi player, and vocalist in the genres of Punjabi folk, R&B, and soul. And she's no stranger to the Guilty Feminist. Please welcome Amrit Kaur.
Yay!
Amrit.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, it's really great to see your faces again. It just feels like we've just transported into just part 2, literally part 2 of the last one. I've got an I'm a feminist but, and I just thought of it after hearing all of yours. I'm a feminist, but I think I'm starting a collection of heeled versions of classic boots. So I've got these really cool heeled Doc Martens already, which I've had for quite a few years, and they go with everything. And then recently I bought myself heeled versions of Timberland boots. But they look so cool. And
But you put a heel on them.
they're heeled versions.
Oh, you can get them. You can. Oh, you just buy that shoe.
Yes.
You can't just get a regular
you're
Doc
all
Marten,
thinking
Jess,
skinny
and show
heels.
little about shoes.
No,
Do you stand on
skinny
tiptoes?
heels. They're just heels.
they're chunky heels.
The chunky heels.
A chunky heel Doc.
Not
I like a
stilettos.
chunky heel Doc.
Yeah, they're not stilettos.
No.
I'm interested.
wouldn't work.
Send me a link.
And I think the reason I buy those is because I don't like wearing heels generally, like stilettos. I just couldn't last in them. So my kind of preference is to just buy heeled versions of classic boots, which go with everything.
I approve of this message. Like it's a party political broadcast. We did so checking in on this episode. So as a metric, we did this episode about 6 months ago, I think. And afterwards, we did some Guilty Feminist online classes with some of you as teachers, which were very well received. So Anna, who originally hooked us up with this, who does our Instagram, she got some feedback. It was one of our most commented on eps ever. Comments included, as a white cis woman, this was such a challenging episode and I had to push through it, which just shows how uncomfortable it was and how much work it made me do in such a short time. I'm sort of in tears at the end and I'm not 100% sure why yet, but it's one of the most moving and rewarding discussions I've heard in a while. It's really shifted my perspective. And this is referring to the discussions we had about white women taking over yoga and sometimes women of color, black and brown women and Far Eastern women not feeling safe in the space. And a lot of white yoga studios going, well, they just don't want to come, and not asking the question, why not? Then another listener said, loved every second of this, one of the most compelling discussions on inclusivity and appropriation in yoga and wellness. Somebody else saying, this is like a sign from the universe. I have just listened to the wellness episode. My plan is to ultimately set up a pay what you can class in a local community center when I qualify as a yoga teacher to introduce it to the people in my area that think they can't or shouldn't do it. Thank you for giving me the signals to get on with it. Someone else says, some of the best commentary I have heard on doing the work. Another listener says, a really important episode, got me thinking a lot as a white middle-class yoga student. Another listener wrote in about disability. We ended up, because last time we were meant to be talking about wellness and whiteness in wellness, but we ended up talking a lot about yoga. And it was pointed out that we did not have enough South Asian representation amongst the yoga teachers, and we didn't have enough broader wellness discussion. It's just the way it went. But we want to address that. Somebody else said, I was particularly interested in your wellness episode, having practiced yoga for over a decade. And as a disabled woman, I was disappointed that disability was barely mentioned. Perhaps the crux of it for me is this: disability, not impairment, can often bar people from resources such as time or money that enable one to participate in wellness. Those in pain need wellness. Disability can skew our standards of what is healthy or acceptable. It can also mean convenience is key, so researching ethical practices might seem both vitally important for the world, yet unachievable in our day-to-day. So we figured, because this is often happens that we'll be talking about one intersection and someone else will go, I was really disappointed you didn't mention this other intersection. And which is absolutely, completely fair and valid. But my response to that is, why don't we do another episode where we take this intersection? So rather than trying to do every intersection in one episode. So we know that we need to come back, and we know we need to do a lot more on disability than we do overall, to be honest with you. So did anyone get any feedback? How were the classes? Have you got anything to say about your experience coming on the Guilty Feminist? Jonelle.
Well, I love the classes. I attended the classes myself as a participant. And I think I got to everyone's session at least one time, which was such a gift and so amazing because it's nice to be held as a teacher and be in a safe that's very intentional and that everyone is seen and held. So I, as a participant, I love it. I'm going to give that feedback. And I really enjoyed interacting with the community. And I got some amazing comments and feedback from folks saying that they felt really good about it. They felt seen and they felt more comfortable to try things, and that they even, and a lot of your community are white women, but they have even felt the way that the, wellness has been constructed, it's not serving anybody. You feeling like you have to like turn up to these places and the practice and it like all be together. You have to look a certain way and be a certain way. And I feel like, what we achieved collectively with the Be Well classes is to kind of start to move away from that. So, folks came and they practiced, and all like a range of folks. And I really enjoyed it. I really got a lot from it.
That's wonderful, Jonelle. Thank you. Thank you. We had so many great comments from it as well. People were so excited. Mia?
Yes, I absolutely loved it. It was I got a lot of great comments and feedback, how much kind of things you were saying, just the discussions that we had and opening the conversation that I think sometimes people are afraid to have or they don't know how to have. And because it stirs some stuff up, it activates it, and as it should, because that's what yoga does. It activates stuff so that we can dig into our shadow and look at things that sit in the mud, because if we don't, how are we going to actually own our light? And so I feel like holding that space in the Be Well classes and having those conversations, which I do, and threading that throughout the classes was such a powerful way to create community in a new way and opening up that space. And it was so fun, Jonelle, having you there. And I'm so sorry I couldn't come to your class. I really wanted to because I had clients and classes at the same time. So it meant a lot for you to be there as well. And thank you too, for the Guilty Feminist for creating that space, because it was really empowering, I think, for a lot of people to experience yoga in a way that maybe they didn't have access to before, or opening their mind and seeing it from a different angle, from our different perspectives as well. There's so many different doors in. So it was awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Stacie?
Yeah, so I'm always typically the person who's a little less effusive, but that's just who I am. I'm also the person who didn't teach a yoga class, right? So my offerings were specifically mindfulness rather than yoga, and I know that was a lot. Perhaps I shouldn't assume, but I did have the feeling that it was felt to be a little less sexy than what Jonelle and Mia offered. They definitely have a pull with the way that they teach. And people hear mindfulness, and I feel like a lot of people have a lot of assumptions about what that's going to be like. But it was a real joy, especially that first session. I think I offered 2 sessions. In that first session, there were a lot of people there who offered some really great comments, both on the call and then later sent emails reaching out for other work. It was also interesting, there were people who reached out, quite a few people who reached out wanting to work with me and then weren't quite ready to do that work. And that's not a criticism or a jab at anyone. It's just, sometimes that's also really good information, right? You listen to a podcast, you feel energized. Yeah, that's what I want to be doing. And then when it gets really close, you're like, oh, maybe not. And that voice comes and tells you, oh, there's all these other things that you actually need to do first. Mm-hmm. And so that also happened, and that's absolutely fine. So I enjoyed offering it. I enjoyed being able to teach mindfulness to larger groups, especially during a time where I feel like people can really benefit from it. And I didn't make it to Jonelle or Mia's sessions, but Jonelle knows that I'm very rarely going to make it to to a vinyasa style class because it's just not my practice. So
Load.
Hey, if it makes you feel better, I didn't know about the classes. I wasn't even on the podcast. So if it makes you feel better.
Yeah, Jess, if you were ready to do the work, you would have just known. You would have just,
I
the
would have
universe
just known.
would have
And I'm
tapped
not
you on
ready
the
to do the
shoulder
work.
and
Yeah.
said, hey, what you doing?
Excuse me.
Where's your mind? Is it being full? No. Stacie, I admit to you.
Very empty.
That's right. That's
actually the way it's supposed to be.
No, I know, isn't it? It's an ironic name, isn't it, really?
Yes, that's the translation. Yeah.
Mind freeness, yeah.
It's just going to be less. It's just much harder to get people to, even harder to get people to be ready for it if you call it mind emptiness. It's just hard to sell, isn't it?
Well, I admit to you, Stacie, I'm one of those people who previously had thought meditation mindfulness I probably did think it was less sexy, I'll admit. Did you say or
I said as in I'm telling. It's maybe your school outfit that made me give a playground retort. I'm so sorry.
You're in dungarees. You're in a lower class than me.
I'm dressed like a business toddler. I'll shut up. I'll mute myself. I'll upset myself.
Don't mute yourself, no, because then I won't sound funny if I make a joke.
Cool. No.
I admit, Stacie, I was someone who I just always thought, meditation's not for me. I'm not. My mind's too busy. I can't do it. I don't like it. Don't want to do it. Boring, stupid. I hate it.
We got the picture, Deb. So you're sort of the more you talk, the worse it gets.
Yeah, to be honest. Well, it's going to take a turn. It's going to take a positive turn, and that's why I feel able.
I am excited about the turn bit.
I started hypnotherapy with Sandy Ames, hypnotherapist from New York. I never say hypnotherapy without saying Sandy Ames, hypnotherapist from New York. It's not clear to me whether she has possibly hypnotized me to do marketing for her. Because why otherwise? I'm going to be honest with you. Why?
She's hypnotized you into advertising.
I can't stop myself. It's very concerning. And
if at any point Deborah just goes to sleep during the podcast, we'll just have to keep talking until whatever the trigger word is for her to come back.
It's highly possible. No, I mean, hypnotherapy she always says when she's putting me under, she always says with your consent, with your permission. And I know you can't hypnotize anyone to do anything they don't want to do. But I have actually put a lot of my friends onto her. And I know at least one of my friends has actually, got in touch and started sessions.
Can they talk about their hypnotherapist without mentioning their full name, or are they?
We both call her Sandy Ames hypnotherapist to each other every time we talk about her. So it's just, I don't know why. But I'll be honest with you, I wanted a New York hypnotherapist because, okay, all right.
Here we go.
I just feel British people, as a people, and I include myself in this, although I was raised in Australia, I have dual nationality. So for this, I include myself. British people are always a little bit unambitious and disappointed. So when I'm in a trance, I don't want that seeping in. I don't want that seeping in. I just feel that a British hypnotherapist is going to have a small office above a shop on Marylebone High Street, and I'm going to walk in and go, if this stuff worked, why would you be here?
Ambitious and disappointing.
Do you know what I mean? Now, listen.
Get Abs putting it on my next poster. Whatever happens, thank God, something to put on my tour poster.
If you are a British hypnotherapist, you're listening to this. Please
you're
don't,
livid, aren't you? You are furious.
You might be thoroughly livid, but please remember, I'm a British comedian, so it's my job to make jokes. I don't really think that people shouldn't go to British hypnotherapist. Amrit's saying, I just think of Little Britain. Look into my eyes, don't look around my eyes. Of course, there are brilliant British hypnotherapists. Of course there are. If you are one, amazing, fantastic. I think I just wanted...
I've got a feeling where the feedback's going to start when we do part 3, lads.
Yeah.
It's going to be from British.
I just wanted a little bit of that. I didn't want it to be Californian because I'll get all cynical and I'll get very London if it's Californian. But New York's got the right upbeat positivity. It can happen. Anything can happen. I believe in you. Mixed with a little bit of irony and cynicism. And that was just what suited me You may not want Sandy Ames, hypnotherapist, New Yorker. I did. And she was trying to get me to do this mindfulness, Stacie, at night when I go to sleep. And in the morning, she had tapes that she said, well, I'll give them to you for free, MP3s sort of thing. When you wake up in the morning, you just do 15 minutes. You just listen, breathe. I'll do breathing with you. If your mind just drifts off and get busy, she says that in that. That's fine. That's fine. That's just happening. But this is here, this is here, this is here. And I resisted because I thought, well, I'll do the hypnotherapy, but that sounds boring. Then she hypnotized me to do it. I heard her do it when I was under. I heard her go, just 17 minutes, just 17 minutes, just 17 minutes, just 17 minutes. And she kept saying just 17 minutes. Next thing I knew, I was downloading it, was listening, wasn't I? Because she'd hypnotized me to do it. It has changed me. I admit to you, Stacie, it is sexy. It does work. Mm-hmm. I sleep better. Mm-hmm. I am absolutely more energized and focused. Apart from my wobble yesterday, which I admit was
which is a part of mindfulness.
Thank you, Stacie. Mm-hmm. I admit that. So you were right all along. Mindfulness is the bomb.
Thank you. You heard it here first.
Aisha, can you tell us about you?
I'm a yoga teacher, and I talk about diet culture a lot and how it's kind of weaponized against us, and there's no real difference in the wellness industry, wellness space between wellness and diet culture. It's just kind of got rebranded, and it's got it's been haloed. So now there's this weird morality where you're deemed as superior if you made it to a yoga class, or if you're drinking a green juice instead of a coffee, or any of that. So I like to have a lot of rants about it, basically.
Can you have a rant now? Because we love a rant.
I love a rant. That's why I'm here.
Jess Fostekew, that's very much her
Ready
shop front.
for the rants.
Rants and fun facts.
I didn't know I had a shop front, Aisha. If I do have a shop front, it's anti-diet industry rants.
It's a ranty anti-diet shop front.
Anti-diet shop front.
100%. If you haven't seen Jess Fostekew's show Hench, unbelievable. So good. So good.
Hopefully, literally believable, though. I fact-checked.
Unbelievable is a hyperbolic.
It is infuriating in the sense that wellness, as a title, even for an episode of this, it can mean so many things. In one sense, you've got, it lifts it out of the, frankly, kind of toxic, dangerous element when you've realised, no, it also encompasses all of this kind of holistic, movement and kindness to self and all these incredible levels of introspection and outside of yourself. There's so much. It can just mean, how do you make yourself feel good and happy and be in touch with yourself and acknowledge that your mind and your body are connected. But, it's a $4.5 trillion industry. And a lot of that has got nothing to do with all those lovely things I just mentioned. It's to do with teas that, people spend a lot of money on to try and shit themselves thin, isn't it? It's so sad that all of that's come under it as well.
Where does that money go? If we were all actually well and we weren't spending money on diet tea and, whatever the fuck else, this,
it wouldn't be a profit-making industry if
exactly.
any of those things were a fix,
So, Aisha, can you please go on one of your trademark rants now? Because we are all very keen to hear it.
I feel like, Deborah, asking somebody who... I feel like it's a little bit like when a taxi driver asks us to tell them a joke, because we've said we're a comedian, to demand a rant.
Well, I mean, we can always edit it out if she says I don't want to rant, but I want to give her space and permission to rant.
You absolutely got permission, but please no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure to rant, but space and permission.
I just hate it. I hate the whole wellness industry. It's ableist, it's racist, it's classist. It's just the absolute freaking worst. And it doesn't help anybody. It really doesn't. It puts more and more levels onto how good a consumer you can be. Even self-care and body positivity. It's no longer self-care to actually take care of yourself. And community care and the things that self-care really are. Instead, it's, did you buy a bath bomb? Did you use your bath bomb? Like, it's such an obsession with trying to sell you more and more crap. You don't need it. That green juice, sorry to say, it's probably a load of sugar and water. The other thing that irritates me is it goes so far back. We have most people who are like, oh, I like my yoga class. I seem to be batting green juices a lot. I like my turmeric latte. I like my vegan diet. They're very attached to it, and they don't know the history of it. The history of, firstly, the people who weren't allowed to eat in those ways and whose food was taken away from them.
Oh, I got a good one for that. Turmeric latte. So if you want to move away from the green juice, you can talk about that one.
Turmeric latte.
Yeah.
On that note, the turmeric latte in Ayurveda is filled with loads of vitamins, turmeric, and they're fat-absorbed vitamins. They're vitamin A, they're vitamin K. Vegans have it with rice milk or oat milk, things with very little fat in them. So you're not absorbing the nutrients from the turmeric. You're meant to have it with some milk. So that copy and badly paste keeps happening throughout all of it. It's like, oh, look, this is a cool idea. And keep in mind, I was teased my entire life for like yellow fingertips and yellow nails and smelling of curry. And then you go to these places and they're like, oh, we've made a latte with some curry and some chai in it. And you're like, really? That doesn't even taste like chai. So it goes so far back. It goes all the way back into Plato? Yeah, Plato said you are what you eat. The Europeans who colonized the entire world, they were obsessed with that idea. And when they went over and colonized absolutely everywhere, they saw what people were eating and they saw what they looked like. And then they're thinking, well, we don't want to look like that, so we're not going to eat what they eat. This happened in the 1500s, the 1600s, and so on. And now you still have nutritionists telling people that a very Western diet is so much healthier than any cultural foods that we're used to. We get told to eat kale. Now, before kale was a superfood, it literally only sold as a garnish at Pizza Hut. It was the garnish on the salad bar. Nobody had heard of it, like 15, 20 years ago. And now it's just everywhere. And it keeps happening through absolutely everything, that weird copy-paste.
What is the answer? And can I throw this open to the floor for you all to have a discussion? Because I think this is, last time we talked a lot about yoga and whiteness in yoga, and we have that. And it was not in any way designed to chase white people off yoga, but to say for white people not to be taking up all the space and the central space the whole time. Can we morph this conversation into other parts of wellness? Because I'm really interested in what you all have to say. Stacie, I feel like you're itching to come in here.
What makes you say that?
I can just tell.
Well, I think there are a lot of things that come up for me with that question in particular. First and foremost, when we throw out a number like 4.5 trillion, you need to put that into perspective, because people hear that and they can't really comprehend what that means, right? That's a huge number. We don't really understand what it means. But I would also say you probably can't narrow it down to wellness.
That was on it was just on this like Global Institute.
No, I've read the number many
Institute.
times.
Right.
But the question is, how are they defining wellness?
Yeah, sure.
Right. And so I think we need to move away from this notion that, everything that we're criticizing here, right? That move away from that, because it's not wellness. It was not created or designed to make anyone well. And then first and foremost, what is wellness? And it's very hard to say for a person what is wellness, because they're so disembodied today, right? Who is really in tune with, who can really say why something is coming up, and who is really equipped and resourced to sit with whatever is coming up. We're in this space, in this bubble. We talk about breath, and we talk about sitting still, and we talk about all these things, but most people can't do that. Those are already really advanced things. And a lot of the times in those bubbles, we say, oh, it's because of, trauma. Again, let's define what trauma is. But, oh, it's because of trauma. It's because of, no, it's because people are disembodied, which historically for many people does come from intergenerational trauma. But that person might not read themselves as someone who's traumatized. They read themselves as absolutely normal because within their network, their circle, they are normal. Their TV is always running. They're on Clubhouse. They're listening to podcasts. That's perfectly normal for the majority of people. So what is it? And I completely agree with you, Deborah, about this. Let's move away from yoga. Oh yeah, my brand is specifically holistic wellness. So we just completed a 6-week course on befriending the inner critic that had nothing to do with yoga. And everything to do with these things that I'm talking about, getting in touch with yourself, digging a little deeper, not accepting kind of the first answer that comes up for you when you talk about your inner critic. So that's what I would throw into the group. And I'm happy to hear what the rest of you have to say, but that's where I would start. Why do we accept these marketing ploys as wellness? Why do we even include them?
Yeah. I accidentally gave $58 American dollars to some man last night when I was feeling really down on myself, who was promising me the world and then delivered a whole heap of information I already had. And I've ended up with an app and I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? I gave him $58, but he was promising me things I wanted. Tom's looking at me alarmed.
You did that at the same time as buying those horrible furnishings, Debs?
Pretty much, yeah. Now I've got some ugly cushions and some information I already had about high impact
It's hard to know what's worse.
Yeah. I don't know what I've done. I'm not.
At least you can burn the cushions. What are you going to do with the information you already had?
Very difficult to know. Delete the app. I've already unsubscribed. He emails me every 10 minutes. And
oh, my crumbs.
Like he's my boyfriend.
I don't think he's dealt with his inner critic. He's got some outer critics right here.
He's not. But I think there's something that you said that really made my inner light go on was we're disembodied. We really are. And maybe I say we because I know that I really am. But I think we all, my whole problem, my whole life, if I'm really honest, which I'm discovering through therapy, through dance, through all of these things this year, and I'm having a bit of a crisis about, is I've not been in my body. I'm only just getting to know my body. We're just so disconnected. And that's why we eat without thinking, just like grazing all the time. I've had this thing all my life where I have to have something in my mouth and it's just an oral fixation. I know Jessica Fostekew wants to laugh because it sounds rude.
I don't want to laugh. Whenever we've spoken about eating and in that sense, I think it's, I think a lot of people think they're addicted to eating and actually they're just hungry and eating's lovely.
No,
It's a blurry boundary, completely. And I think you have to sometimes have I hear so many people, especially women, say, "Oh God, I'm addicted to." There are no addicted, even sugar. It's bullshit. You can't. You can't be addicted to food. We are primarily designed to be on the hunt in our minds and our bodies, but it's our bodies talking to our minds and then our minds overriding everything for food. And food makes you feel nice, so you're looking to feel nice. But, and it's actually incredibly rare. There are actual real medical syndromes like Prader-Willi and things like that where people cannot not be eating and have to, and it's a massive physical override. And I think it's a dangerous, dangerous is the wrong word, a very complicated thing to talk about that kind of unmindful, mind-empty eating, because I think we put a lot of weight on it and we put a lot of self-criticism on it where actually... It's just, there are times where you're distracted and there are times where you aren't. There are times where you're starving all day and you don't know why. There are times where it's so otherworldly. It's not something you can control, but it is from the second we were born, we are being taught, especially as women, that you better learn to control it. And actually, if you were in control of your life and if you were someone who had your shit together and you were intuitive and instinctual and if you were, it's impossible. And I think an enormous number of people want a little bit of food in their mouth a lot of the time. It's a really bloody lovely thing to be doing.
Yeah.
Yes, Deborah, on that note, all of the random studies that you see about rats who prove that sugar is more addictive than cocaine or all of these things, they've starved the rats for at least 12 hours beforehand. That's the equivalent of starving us for like 3 to 4 days. what would you choose afterwards, a high or sugar? Because I think majority of humans would go for sugar because your brain runs on it.
And it is a high. Like...
Oh, I'd much rather have sugar than cocaine.
Point, like your body...
Anytime. You offer me a really lovely, like a Haagen-Dazs cookies and cream ice cream or a line. Oh, I'll take the ice cream every time. I'm not interested in cocaine. Not interested.
I'm chatty enough. I'll have the ice cream.
I mean, if Haagen-Dazs did a Mandy flavour, an MDMA flavour, then we're talking. That's a different thing. Jonelle, I want to know what you're thinking about this.
The thing is, I mean, I know we're like, oh, let's not talk about yoga. Let's not talk about...
You can talk about yoga. I just wanted to say...
No, but I want to bring it back around is that a lot of this stuff, a lot of what we talk about wellness is very fluid and is down to, you know, the person and their circumstance and everything. And so we're taught to look outward. Outward has the answers. And that's like from the beginning. The outward has the answers, and that's where you get them from. And really where the answers are all in us. And like what's going to make me well is in me. It's based on me. It's not based on some ad that keeps coming up on my Instagram feed around some silly tummy tea or, you know, the things. Like sometimes you just go like, what is this? Why is this like why does somebody keep showing me this Noom bullshit? I don't want this. Why?
Oh
is
my
this
God, I hadn't
here?
thought about it. I mean, I get targeted with enough stuff just because I have a podcast about eating, but you guys actually work in the industry. I can only imagine the horror that is your Instagram ads. Like they must target you with the worst kind of before after picture hell,
exactly.
Right?
And
you
so
poor bastard.
why had any of this has been useful? Why yoga has been useful? It's an embodiment practice. It gets you in your body. It gets you inside. Meditation gives you the space to actually fucking listen to what is going on. We are so bombarded that we can't decide what's me and what's not me. And I was on Stacie's Befriending the Inner Critic course, and so was our friend Kima. Can I say that? Oh, it's all right. Kima was there too. Sorry.
Kima has put it on social media. It's okay.
Sorry. As soon as I said it, I said, oh, shit. You're telling people's business. But anyway, good, because I didn't see that. And it just helped me to like listen. Like when you talk about... do I look all right? Oh my goodness, now I gotta go somewhere for real and put clothes on. And it's like, yeah, bitch, you're fine. Go ahead and go out there. You know what I mean? Like my inner critic has befriended me and she was like, oh yeah, you're great. You go ahead. You do your thing. But if you don't have a way to, especially, you know, we spend a lot of time like disembodied. If you don't have a way back to your body, you know, you're stuck thinking, let me eat this avocado toast so I can become avocado toast. Or, you know, you're caught up in this like matrix, right? You know, I'm like against avocado toast now. I'm like, please don't bring that anywhere near me.
I have to admit, I do love some avocado toast.
I bet you do. I'm like, when we're at a brunch and people start like, oh, this is what we're going to have. I'm like, I ain't coming. Waffles and bacon. Waffles and bacon, please. No green juice, mimosas, okay?
Okay,
but
mimosas.
That's going to make me well, right? Somebody else. That's not... But it is, and also it's fluid. Like what makes you well today won't make you well tomorrow. And also this thing that it is stuck in my head about the person that got in touch about disability. And it's like, we are all temporarily able, right? Because it can change at any time. And as we get older, it is changing. So, you know, really like holding all of that in one instance is where we have to start to like disconnect from these messages in dominant culture. And where does that message come from? A lot of it is whiteness, right? Saying that this is like how you are well. And what we know is that it really depends on the time, the day, the season, you know, and especially as all folks that, I know you were talking about your period, Deborah, but folks on here that bleed, that, right, hormones, everything. So it really is down to us to reclaim it, like, as individuals for ourselves, so we can model that for other people. So, like, as a community, as a collective, that we're able to do that.
Can I just jump in there? And I know we want to bring Mia in. It's just occurred to me that it's really important also because of the previous feedback. Not that anyone said this in particular, but and that it somehow could possibly come across that we're saying, white people back off. It's not your yoga. But we need to, and this is who I am and I always do it, but we have to get really specific. Like it's not like some vague they. It's not like in The Good Place that there's just one person writing a program. There's a reason that we talk about whiteness specifically, not white people, but whiteness specifically. There's a reason we talk about it because who is creating the ads that make us believe those things? Mm-hmm. There's a whole industry around it, but we never talk about that. We talk about the hashtags and the people posting, and they do have accountability and responsibility. But there's somewhere that it comes from, and I think I just want to put that in this space so that can be acknowledged. The people who are creating the ads, the people who are creating the things that make us believe that we need something, that we want to buy something, that we want to eat something, that we want to wear something, that we want to travel somewhere. The people running that industry are white, and they are predominantly white men. And you'd be really surprised to find out how far that industry goes. Like, I know people think about a TV ad, white folks want to get mad about a beautiful ad about Black folks enjoying their Christmas dinner. But there's so much more that is happening. The expertise that they have today, and I'm not talking about third party and cookies and all of that. They know you beyond that. They don't need the cookies to know you. They know you and they craft things. It's not magic. There's a whole industry behind it that makes those ads come up on your social media. And they do good things too, right? The government, the UK government, was one of the biggest spenders in advertising over the last 12 months. And you can imagine why, because they needed to get the information out about COVID-19. But we just need to name that a lot of these impressions that are put on us from a very early age come from somewhere. And it's not some vague they in the sky. There's an industry that makes this possible. And that industry is run by a lot of white men. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
No, well said.
I feel like I'm in their grip a bit at the moment. And I feel very thirsty for what you're saying, but I want to kind of get into the laptop and be with you, because I feel like this Zoom is very, like, I don't know why. I feel like I've just shown up. This was scheduled. This is, all sorts of podcasts are scheduled for me, and, I may be feeling more or less connected. But for this one, I feel quite hungry and also wanting. Like, I feel like I'm really not being in a great place with all this stuff. And I feel like, oh my God, I've fallen for this. I've fallen for this and I've fallen for this. And I'm not meant to be the person who falls for it. I'm the person who writes the book with the fucking chapter that says, oh, drink the Kool-Aid, only 1 calorie. I've got this shit sorted. And I'm not. I feel so hypocritical. And I know that's the whole thing about the guilty feminist is I'm a feminist, but I don't get it right.
And surely that's it. Like, it in itself, that's inspirational to admit that. Like, this isn't aimed at people. It doesn't only fool the unintelligent. It doesn't only fool the vulnerable. It's insidious.
Exactly.
And absolutely toxic and powerful. You're not less for having fallen for it. I mean, me too. Like, it don't...
I think it's just
the
being
isolated or something. It shifts. The more you do your other work, it like creeps in different places. And that's what I've noticed. It's like before it would, okay, right, that's this, that's that. Whatever we're talking about. Whiteness, diet culture, or whatever. But now, as you get more sophisticated, it gets more sophisticated.
Yeah. And so it's like that staying one step ahead. It's the bank staying one step ahead of the hackers. It's that kind of thing. But ultimately, that's only the how do you deal personally with the horror that is the powers controlling all of this, and how do you stay one step ahead to keep yourself in track? But it still doesn't go anywhere to starting to how do we stop the powers that be? How do we get to the source of the thing and change the fucking thing? not just how do you cope with it personally, but
how do we dismantle it
How can
more?
we dismantle it? How can we smash this up?
Yeah.
Mia, I feel like you've been wanting to come in for a while, and we're leaving you.
It's okay. I've taken it all in, and actually, I think what I just resonate with all the things that you're saying, and being someone who stepped into the wellness world at 20, like in my 20s, I'm 55 now, and I was a professional dancer.
How are you fucking 55?
Fucking 55.
This is not helping your self-esteem. You sitting there being 55, looking like an 18-year-old. Jesus.
You know why? Well, because it's some Japanese genes. That does help. But no, truly, I really think I've been unpacking this shit for 30 years, and you're not ever fucking done. I say this when I work with clients. You're never done. You have to step in every day and keep peeling the layers back and changing the system that is out there in the institutions means we have to keep looking at where the institutions are within us. And that's what I really stepped into as a professional dancer in my 20s, how much self-hate I had. So that's why I studied psychology. I went to UCLA. So my background's in therapy and coaching. And I started doing the shadow work way before I ever stepped in the yoga world. So that's really the wellness thing is what I brought in and integrated with yoga. And I bring in the sutras and I talk about, with so much respect for the lineage and how to integrate that. Because mindfulness is like our thoughts and our feelings, and being disconnected from our bodies is because we stay so much in our rational, logical mind and want to understand things so intellectually, but we have lost connection to how do we feel? What am I feeling in my body? Yoga, or mindfulness brings us into what am I feeling? Trauma work gets us into what am I feeling? And if I can feel into that, then I can change some of the stories and the belief systems that I have inherited and ingested. So I am such a big proponent of it is so not about the fucking green drinks and the diet cult. I come from LA, and I'm the one that would just make fun of that as well. I get it, if that's your thing. And at the same time, there's no sidestepping, there's no bypassing doing the inner work. The shadow work, because the shadow is where a lot of the nutrients, whatever it is, I'm very much in touch with my anger and my rage. You can see that little pillow back there. When I'm fucking off center, I don't want to sit in meditation. I need to rage. And I am not afraid of my rage because there is justice and there is courage in there. I just need to get what is constructive and start to pull that back so I don't just become the very thing that I really don't like or even hate. I know when my self-hate is up because it starts to take me down. And that's when I'm like, oh, you've just internalized more of the system, more of the patriarchy, more of the misogyny, more of the white supremacy. And so I'm like, okay, come on, sister, let's go play ball. And I hit that thing. And I'm like, motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. And I let it out and I dance. I still dance. I don't dance to perform. I dance to move energy through. So wholeness, and like Stacie, I've been doing an 8-week workshop. There is not yoga at all. I mean, it's like breaking down the critic, going into shame and guilt, how to be with sadness and self-pity. Because if you can't be with your own sadness, you're going to go to want to rescue other people. And yoga teachers are notorious for that. Yes. It's like, I want you to feel better. Happiness is not a goal. It is an outcome from doing the work. You cannot disown. It is not a goal. It is an outcome. I stand by that. So many people want to be happy all the time. I'm like, no, you got to learn how to do sad. You got to learn how to do grief. You got to learn how to hurt. You're not going to live there, but if you're able to process it and get the wisdom, you get the mud, you get the lotus, you get to grow. You can't have the light without the shadow. It's integration. That wholeness is integrating all the parts of ourselves that we have not loved or we have pushed away. Those parts need to come back and go, honey, I love you. I want you. Integrate it and bring it together. And our wholeness belongs to us and nobody can fucking take that away from you. It is your gold. So when people say that to me, I'm like, I like it. Look, I'm a feminist, but I like when people tell me that I look younger than my age. I love it. I do. It's my ego. I don't care. And at the same time, I'm like, I don't have that many gray hairs in my head because I really, and it's, look, I know I shouldn't say that because there's a lot of hereditary, there's all kinds of stuff. But what I'm saying is I learned how to rinse a lot of my worry and my shit. So I'm not ingesting it. And if I do, I'm just abusing myself, and that abuse lives inside of me. So we have to do the work out, especially this week in the U.S. And it's been very triggering with what's going on in racism and white supremacy. It's triggering. I just been like and I haven't said much on social media because this time I'm like, I go layer deeper. I just have to go layer deeper. And for me, that's what wellness is. You never stop doing the work. It's integration, coming back to wholeness, and loving the parts, whatever that means, to the parts that we have deemed unlovable. And that is, the more you do that, you have less time to gossip. You have less time to hate on yourself. You have less time to hate on other people, because you know what? I'm too busy integrating and taking care of my stuff. That's my version.
Well, that was
I love it.
wonderful, and I'm going to give you a round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
Because I really felt that. Can I ask a question, which is a personal question that I hope other people who are listening might want to ask, and even if they don't, it's my podcast, I'm asking it.
Worst case scenario, none of us answer.
So through lockdown, I saw this as a time to do DIY on myself, because I've been charging around the world and the city, doing a million zillion things, not taking that time. And lockdown, I was like, okay, at first I didn't react well. I'm an extrovert, but then I was like, okay, this is time to do work on yourself. And so dance class and like really getting to know my body. And sometimes that's been challenging for me, because I was in a cult when I was younger, and we weren't allowed to focus on our bodies. We weren't allowed to masturbate. We weren't allowed to we weren't allowed to go to dance class. We weren't allowed to do anything like that. We weren't allowed to kiss somebody or like get to know, unless we were courting with a view to marriage. And so when other people were getting in touch with their bodies, I wasn't. I was ignoring my body, studiously ignoring its changes, ignoring its urges, ignoring everything about it. So I thought dance is a way of me, like, finding this, I did this, and then I started therapy, and I started talking about ways in which being adopted might have, be like in my DNA in some way. And I started doing all this work, right? And I was like, really, and I really feel like I was getting somewhere. And then this weird thing has happened that like my body has changed because of dance. It looks different. Because I danced a lot and I'm learning to do pirouettes, and I'm like, it does look different now. And somebody said to me, oh, you're a different person. And I was like, I'm not a different person. I'm the same person. My body's just a slightly different shape. But the thing is, the closer my body starts to look like they want it to look, which will happen if you dance a lot. And I dance 10 hours a week, and I was doing it for myself. I was doing it to get in touch. I'm doing it to make myself strong. I'm doing it because I love it. I'm doing it because I'm not going to get out of bed otherwise, and I need to get out of bed and move, or I'm going to be very sad, and I'm not going to sleep well, and I'm going to spiral into a bad place. So I'm doing it for me, and I love dancing. It's the first exercise I've ever done in my life where I'll go, can we do another hour? Have you got another hour? I'll never do that with personal training. In my life will I go, think we could do another hour of this weights thing? Never in my life. I want to get this tap dance right? I want to be able to do it. So I'm like, I reckon I can crack it, right? So this is great for me. But here's the thing. Dance makes my body look closer to the bodies on the billboard. And the closer my body gets to that body on the billboard, the more I think it could get there, and I could please them, and I could be what they want me to be, and I could be what I was meant to be when I was 15, when I didn't look like that, and then it's a promise, then there's just this little gap. And the farther I am away from the billboard, the less I have to participate in that. I'm like, I don't look like that billboard. I don't have to. I'm a feminist. I'm body positive. I'm accept everything. And then I dance and dance and dance, and I do the therapy and I'm mindful, and I'm doing all these great things that are so good for me, but all of them push me closer to the billboard. And then I'm like just inches from the billboard where I could please everybody and I could look the way I'm supposed to look. And then I go into my head and I spiral into this place of, why don't I look like that? And why can't I get there? And like, what are these ways that I could get there? And are there ways? And is there a man in California who's gonna, if he takes my $57, which I fucking gave him, I gave him $57 so that he could send me back, why don't you buy all these pills from me? And I was like, what did you think he was going to say? What did you fucking think he was going to say? Like, he knows that how endomorphs shred or some bullshit that he was telling me. And I bought it in like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm so ashamed because I'm not meant to want that. I'm not meant to want it. I'm a feminist. Why do I want that? Why do I want to look like a fucking billboard? Why am I buying into what they're selling me? But it's like, it triggers some adolescent desire to be the thing that they wanted me to be. And I know it's white supremacist. I know it is. And I know it's misogynistic. And I know it's bullshit. What's wrong with my thighs the way they are? But this guy reckons he has the magic to make my thighs look like the thighs on the billboard. And when my thighs look nothing like that on the billboard. I don't get that guy my money. My thighs are my wonderful thighs. But as soon as I get close, I want to close the gap. Please help me.
I so thank you for sharing that, and I so hear your pain, and like I think so many women, if not most or all, can relate to that. Like I've done so much work around that, and I hear that pain of like intellectually, it's like I know my worth, I know that it's not about this image, and yet I still have bought into it, and it's still there, and that dissonance is so hard to resolve sometimes. And what I was thinking about too when you were saying that, Deborah, is I remember when I was dancing professionally, and I just don't have the quintessential dancer's body. I never have. I'm just more curvy. And I remember being on a James Brown, it was a special, and I got fired. My agent called me and said, "You're fired because I'm not skinny enough." And I was like, okay. And I mean, that was part, and I was going to UCLA, I was studying psychology, and I'm like, this is so deeply rooted. As much as I know that it's not that I'm worthy, I still, and even 30 years later, it's still, I hear you. I so hear you. That still comes up because it's like, oh, my body isn't doing this. It doesn't look the way that it used to. And I get so mad at myself. And at the same time, that's where I think the compassion comes in and go, it's okay, honey. It's like, what's underneath that? Maybe it's fear, or I'm sad, or I'm hurt. My enoughness. And I think it's something that we have to lean into, because I think if we extend more of that compassion to ourselves and that empathy, then we could extend it to each other in ways that sometimes we don't even talk about. We so on Instagram, I mean, I don't, because I believe in being really authentic as much as I can, but to have these conversations of like, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to feel your not enoughness. And it's okay to know that that's not who you are. It's something that you've bought into. It's a system. And that system when it rears up, I call it rinsing. I rinse it. I ride it. I hit that fucking pillow. I'm like, oh, I'm so angry at this. I'm so sad. I'm so hurt. And I go to my little girl. I'm like, little Mia, my inner child. I'm like, what do you, honey, what do you need right now? Do you need to be held? Do you need to be, it's usually I need some kind of support or some tenderness. And I don't know if that helps at all, Deborah, but I just felt that pain that has been with me for a long time, and I've cleared a lot of it, and it's still there. It still comes up, and it doesn't make us broken. I think if anything, if we can utilize it, it connects us deeper to more tenderness and compassion.
I would agree with what Mia said, and at the same time, I would push back slightly on how you opened, Mia, in that saying most, if not all, women experience that. As a dark-skinned Black woman, I will never be near the billboard. I'll never be near it. And I'm not taking away from what you said, Deborah, at all. I completely understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying all dark-skinned Black women would feel that way. But I'm so far away from that billboard, I don't even look at it. Like, I don't care about it. I'm also a bit lucky that I never really cared for magazines and things. And I see that I kind of saved myself, right? Everyone I know who used to read whatever it was, all the flashy glossies, they felt worse after looking at them. Mm-hmm. And for a very brief period of time when I would be at my GYN in Germany, that's all they had laid out. And I'd pick them up and I was like, 5 minutes in, feeling bad about myself. So I just put them back down. And I was like, oh, that's what they do. So for me, I'm so far away from that billboard. That's never been my measurement. My measurement has very much always been rooted in the family that I come from and the culture that I come from, and looking at those people. It's funny, I actually recently looked at some pictures of when I was younger, and I'm going to admit I was a cheerleader, and a lot of people can't believe it, but I was, and I was very good at it. And also because I'm physically very strong, so I was a great base. But I had a different picture of what my thighs looked like back then. And I looked at my picture, and I was like, girl, you were skinny. That was really my response. I was like, what? Are those really your thighs? Because I was a runner and I played soccer, and in my mind, I had the muscly, thick thighs, and I did, but I didn't, And so I have, for people who can't see me, I have long locks. I've had locks for over close to 20 years now. So that means my hair is natural. In some ways I'm super curvy. In some ways I'm not. I don't have the biggest bust, but have a nice butt. And so, it's just, I can't relate to the desire to want to be that, and I'm not saying that's for all Black women, I'm not claiming that, but I personally can't relate to that desire because when I looked at it, I never saw me. I never saw me, and I never saw something that I can even aspire to.
And just in case people don't know what I look like, I don't look an inch from Jennifer Aniston, just to be very fucking clear. In case people think, wow, she's just Jennifer Aniston with slightly bigger thighs. I can see her pain. I feel it. Yeah, it must be tough. I don't.
But when you were speaking, it also made me think of something, which is maybe, please don't think it's disrespectful, but I was kind of like, that's like when you need to go to the bathroom, right? You have this whole journey on the tube home and you're like, I need to wee. I should have weed before I left. And you're good and you're fine. And then as you get closer to your door, you're like, okay. Okay. I was so good at this just on the tube. And then like you're at your door and you're like, yeah, that's it. I just weed a little bit.
There is a proximity thing.
I just weed a little bit.
Definitely.
So you're saying I'm spiritually peeing myself?
Yeah, I think you are.
Is that what you're saying?
Your soul, Deborah, your soul's getting closer and closer to the toilet.
Yeah. And
from
it's
the
just,
dancing.
I feel like my soul is running down my leg.
You've danced your soul.
Yeah.
It's hardest. It's hardest right before you make it.
And I think, though, also it's this awareness that you have around it. And that really brings it around where, you know, being aware of it. That but when you're not, right, you're completely in the system. They're just running. You're on that hamster wheel. And you're just going to buy the pills, listen to whatever the man has to say. But just being aware that, like, wow, okay, it's here. Then that's where I say that's where the real healing and the real growth is. You know, that's where you can really find the space from that point of, you know, the spiritually peeing on yourself, right? Because that's how it is for me. I have to literally, spiritually piss, vomit, all of it. And then the big expansion comes, the growth comes. So it is in these points where I just like, I mean, could it get any worse than this? And it's like, well, no, this is where this like contracted state, this like what? And this is where, you know, you have the space to like really grow from and move. And that's how it is for me. It's always got to be like like bad. And I'm like a shell, like crying, shook up. And then that's when, you know, that's when I, you know, start to be able to really grow. So I hope that helps you.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. I think when I was running around the world, I didn't have time to look at myself in the same way. So this is part of the good connection in my body. The good side of this is I'm in my body more. I'm seeing myself more. But the bad side of it is I think what a lot of people are experiencing on Zoom, seeing themselves all the time, where someone I know does some treatment. She's a doctor and she does peels and stuff, but she also does, you know, cosmetic treatments on people's face. And she went, oh my God, business is booming because people are looking at themselves on Zoom and going, is that a line? And we never had this time or energy or focus. We just got on and no one else is seeing that with it you're seeing. But we're all
worried. I'm worried that we're going to have forgotten how to socialize without also looking at ourselves and not knowing what face to do because you're not looking at. My fear is that mirrored sunglasses are going to make a comeback this summer. And I'm out. I'm really excited to be able to react to a conversation that's happening without watching the reaction whilst I'm doing it. Like
I hear that. I feel like it's made us all a little bit, it's distorted. I feel like I've got like a slight amount of body dysmorphia or something at the moment that I haven't, that I never had before. Like I got over all of this shit. I wasn't giving my money to some guy called Vincent California who was promising me the world. Never, not for years and years. Not for years and years and years. I went through all that. I put it behind me. I grew, I changed. And then this year did all of this great work on myself. This is work. Oh, look. And then suddenly this work came bang smack around into the middle of ways that I used to feel I think it's some of it's therapy as well. It's reconnecting me with old stuff.
And then you have the opportunity to see though that this experience is different. Yeah. That's the opportunity in it. Before, likely you didn't have the awareness around it as it was happening. Likely before you wouldn't have talked about it so openly on a podcast with a bunch of some strangers, right? Likely there would have been a lot more harsh judgment, which would have turned into shame, which would have made it even harder. You would have closed more. And now you're like, oh, you're still here? I didn't know you were still here. What's up? What are we doing here? Move out the way. I don't have time for this. That's wellness. That's mindfulness. That's what we do in yoga. Those opportunities where it comes, it's always going to come up. It's going to come up in different ways, different facets. As Jonelle was saying, it gets sophisticated. But then you're like, haha, I see you. I see you over there. Chill. Get out the way. And then you keep going, right? And then it comes up again, and it's like you trip over the pebble, and it's like, oh, I almost fell on my face, but I'm standing, you know? And so I would, not that you have made some kind of impression that you're being really hard on yourself, but I would encourage you to kind of shift that gaze to a gratitude for, wow, look how different this experience is this time. Look how well resourced I am that I know what's happening and I can respond rather than react.
Yeah. And I think there's something too. It's like we've been living in a year or so longer in a pandemic. It has activated and magnified so much for so many people in ways that even if you've done work in certain areas, it's come up in a different form. To see it, to understand it, maybe to help us keep coming back to that wholeness or that wellness, that integration. And like you were saying, Stacie, it's like, it's got more sophisticated. It's like, oh, and now I can see it in a different way. Oh, I probably couldn't have held that before because the shame would have been too big. So I think it is important to, I call it celebration, gratitude, not to silver line it, because, you know, we have to go into our muck, and also to say, ooh, and I see this and I'm able to work with it and navigate it in a way that keeps bringing me back to myself, to my center, to work with it and have that appreciation for, because you don't get this without this, right? So there's the beauty in that too.
Well, can I just say a huge thank you to you all? Tom is telling me it's time to wrap up, but did anyone...
That wee-wee chat, though, has made me really want a wee-wee.
That's good, because my dog is good.
Proximity to the loo.
Is going to wee soon.
Can I just say now, because of all that, it's exactly like a fountain talking about that. Can I just say, did anybody come to say anything today that they didn't get to say? Stacie, is there anything you'd like to say you didn't get to say? You can even plug something if you want.
Sure, I'll plug something.
I was about to go like, I'm looking at it like you like. I'm like, really? Is she doing that?
What are you doing? Yes. So there is one thing that I'd like to say. Also, for the people who listened to us speak last time, where we did talk quite a bit about yoga and so on and so forth, I'd like to remind people that at least how I know the beautiful guests who are here today, Aisha, Mia, Jonelle. When we talk about yoga, we're not talking about asana. We're not talking about posture practice. We're talking about a wisdom tradition. And Jonelle and I have teamed up with two other beautiful teachers, Layla Sadeghi and Kali Skut, to found a 300-hour advanced yoga teacher training called Radical Darshan, where, I don't know, 10% of it is on posture practice. Aisha is one of our guest instructors, and she will be coming with the 3-hour rant, i.e. lecture on anti-diet culture. And, you know, we start June 10th. We're very excited about it. We had some contemplation about if we want to, how are we going to do this with the man? But we did make the decision that we went through the process of becoming accredited with Yoga Alliance US. So mostly because we want people who are willing to do social justice and intersectional equity in yoga. We want that work to be honored and recognized by those institutions, even when we don't agree with those institutions, because we know that that will help those people, you know, get their positions at the studios and bring that work to the people who need it. So I'm excited to say that we came together last year. We made the decision. We've been working every week. We meet every week. We work diligently, even though we all have other jobs, to create what is a spectacular curriculum. And we invite anyone, not just yoga teachers. We invite other wellness practitioners and healthcare professionals, coaches, therapists, to join us on that journey. Because like I said, probably less than 10% is posture practice. Everything that we're doing is about the wisdom tradition and what it offers from a, fighting colonialism, fighting racism, fighting white supremacy, and so on and so forth. So just excited to mention that.
Thank you so much, Stacie. And we'll if you send us the details of that, we can put it in the show notes so people can find where that is happening and when. Aisha, is there anything you came to say that you didn't get to say, or anything you'd like to tell us about?
Yoga is not acrobats. It's just completely not. It's a philosophy. It's incredible. And wellness is so much more than what you're being sold. And really big thing, either people need to become media literate, because that's how you can tell when someone's trying to sell you stuff. Mm-hmm. So do courses, do all the courses on becoming media literate, do courses on anti-racism, and please look into the history of just your random thing that you think is amazing. Because the story is so much bigger than you going to buy something once. It's so much bigger, and that history needs to be explored and decolonized, especially when it comes to yoga, as we know it.
Thank you.
And I teach yoga classes.
Wonderful. Again, tell us where, and we will put it in the show notes. Where can we follow you, Aisha?
Oh, on Instagram, I am the Aisha Nash, and you get access to my Patreon, which is all through my Instagram. And I teach classes with Kula, Tri Yoga, and East of Eden. But I'll send you all those details.
Mia, anything you came to say that you didn't get to say?
I would like to, I'm going to do a little plug because I have created a coaching program that I'm in the midst of right now. We're on week 5. It's an 8-week coaching course. It's called Coming Home to Wholeness, which is an integration course in breaking into the shadow work. It's not yoga at all. And I also feel like this is what I bring into integrating that as a yoga teacher into the philosophy. Ahimsa, non-harming, satya, working with truth, going into the kleshas, attachment and avoidance. I'm not going to start to go into a philosophy breakdown because like everyone else here, do I teach the postures? Yes, and not as the outcome, but as a process to know yourself better. So I teach at Tri Yoga. I also teach at Yoga Works in the US. It's actually where I come from in my teaching. So I had fantastic teachers years and years ago who really steeped in the traditions and the respect and the reverence for what yoga is about. So I feel like that's very much in who I am as a teacher. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Jonelle?
Just if you are interested, and a lot of folks along the way, and where we've been in this cycle, are wanting to do more. They're like, oh, how do I do this? How do I learn more? How can I start to unlearn some of these things? What I say and what I offer is taking classes with Black and Brown teachers too, and what you gave us the fantastic opportunity in the Be Well series to be able to do that and to, come and learn from us. And that's why we have Radical Darshan, plugging that again, because it's important to really get to this place of collective freedom. We have to have this learning exchange, and it's been very one way. And I think for things to change, for like Jess says, how do we dismantle this? Is go to the people that haven't been included, talk to them, spend time with them. We'll show you how to dismantle it. We'll show you how to tear it apart. And so all are welcome.
Thank you so much, Jonelle. And thank you so much to Anna Christian, who brought this idea to me, who organized the classes, who is herself doing the work. Jess, anything that you have to tell us about or that you didn't get to say?
I have a podcast all about eating called Hoovering, which, if I get my way, all the panelists here today will be guests on. Actually, when I expect a begging email or DM very soon. You're all geniuses, and I want to spread your voices here further and wider on my much smaller podcast. Please pay to it.
That's very good.
And I've got some rescheduled tour dates around the end of the summer. I don't know when this is going out, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, soon, I think.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Okay. If you haven't seen Hench, there's only a few dates left to mop up. There's going
to be some London ones announced
Yes.
soon as well.
Great. If you get a chance, if you haven't watched Hench, it's the most wonderful show about the way we feel about our bodies and food and all of those things, and also
from a similarly unfixed lady.
But also a lot of great comedy about Jess's 5-year-old.
Hello, Guilty Feminist. Just an addendum to the stuff that I was talking about in the show. I've since had some conversations with my therapist where I think I've figured out that some of these old feelings coming back are really about control, that I've lost control over my life because of lockdown, and that sometimes your body is something that you can control in lieu of being able to control other things. So I hope it's okay to share these things with you, that sometimes I spiral into these places. I always feel like I have this weird responsibility not to say anything that could make anyone else feel like, oh, well, I should be thinking that way too. I hope it's clear that when these things come upon me, they're old and negative patterns that I wish weren't there and I fight against and work against. I hope it's okay to share those things with you. I guess sometimes it makes me feel a little bit vulnerable, but, you know, if not here at the Guilty Feminist, where? Now, I'm sure that you have seen the terrifying situation in India with COVID. And if we are going to be talking about practicing yoga and other wellness practices that emanate from India and other parts of Asia, then it's only right that we give back to India when India is in trouble if we're going to share in the culture of India. So please, if you possibly can, give to one or more of the following. The details will be in the show notes, but we'll also put them under wellness on the Guilty Feminist website. Mission Oxygen India, and you can go to Instagram at Mission Oxygen India to find out more. Give India, Instagram give_India. Yoga Gives Back, Instagram at Yoga Gives Back. And you can check out all of those to find out how you can give. Mission Oxygen is all about importing oxygen concentrators and donating them to hospitals to help with COVID. Give India is a non-profit which channels resources to credible non-governmental organizations. And Yoga Gives Back particularly focuses on women and girls. So please look at all of those and donate wherever and however you can. If you can't afford to donate, maybe you can share, ask somebody else to give.
Amrit, you have been, as always, wonderful sitting quietly in the space. Is there anything you would like to say or tell us about before you sing?
Sure. I've just been working on music and learning how to step outside of my comfort zone and how to live as an artist on a day-to-day basis and not just do the discipline and work up to a performance and then, oh my gosh, the performance over in 3 minutes and then do the same thing again, but actually live being an artist and love practicing and love how much it's rooted in my own sense of self, I guess. So I'm releasing my first track that does all of those things and comes from a place of me really connecting with that deeper self. And it's coming out really soon. And I'm very happy with it. It puts me in a really vulnerable place with music as well. And the music video is also coming up soon after the track releases. And it's directed by my good friend, Ramani Kaur. When I do music videos, I try and work with an all-woman crew or majority women of colour crew. And it is sometimes hard work to make sure that happens because one guy will kind of sneakily get on there because you can't find someone. But I'm very, very excited about the stuff that's coming out because it's me stepping into that new space.
Wonderful. And what are you going to sing for us today?
I didn't know what I was going to perform when I logged it on to this Zoom call. So I've been listening to the conversation and I feel like what I want to do kind of sums up the conversation we've had today. Today is actually Vaisakhi and we're recording this on the 13th of April. And Vaisakhi is like the harvest festival for the Sikhs and some Hindus also celebrate it. But Vaisakhi also was in 1699, the start of a revolution as well. And a of course, there's a harvest festival, farmers at the forefront of that kind of festival. And it feels different this year because there are still farmers on the front line in India protesting for their rights. And I think that, Greta Thunberg and Rihanna and all those people have allowed that message to spread on a global level. But the most amazing thing is that women were at the forefront of that protest. And interestingly, we were talking about turmeric lattes and all of these things. Like, we rely on those farmers for our turmeric lattes, it affects all of us. And so I've decided to perform something from Sikh scripture today. A lot of us may have heard the word guru before, because now it's kind of used as, a tech guru, or, I don't know how else people use it, but guru essentially means teacher. And we call our Sikh scripture guru because it teaches us. The most amazing part for me about Sikh scripture is there are so many different contributors to the work. It's not written by one person. There are Muslims that write in it, there's Hindus that write in it. And it's a revolutionary piece of work that the people that write in it, like Stacie was talking about earlier, as on even things that you've talked about, Deborah, in this podcast, that just admitting that you fall off track sometimes and admitting that you're not always at 100. And that's what the Sikh scripture kind of talks about too, that this is about meditation and sometimes you can't be that person and you're looking for guidance constantly. So I've chosen a Shabad hymn that talks about the teacher within us. And you can talk about guru as like if you believe in God, or you believe in the universe, or you believe in spirit, or you believe in a teacher, your inner teacher. So I'm going to start off with a little mantra, which is Vaheguru in Sikh culture. That literally means the teacher that takes us from darkness to light. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to go into the hymn, which translates to the teacher's message is within me at all times. And then each verse kind of talks about how we attain it by remembering and remembering and remembering, staying present. In meditation, you find peace in each breath. And then it kind of goes on to say, that teacher is my help and support. Wherever I go, it protects me. It does not sink in water. Thieves cannot steal it, and fire cannot burn it. And it kind of compares the world to this ocean that we have to swim across constantly, and that teacher will continue to teach. So I thought it's kind of a universal message that will allow us to relate on many levels.
I'm really happy that you've responded to the moment rather than planning something. I think it's really the spirit of especially this episode. I do it too. I do it when I turn up to speak places. I don't plan stuff. I just want to see what's in the room, and I think it's amazing. So I'm thrilled that you've done that, and we can't wait to hear what you're going to sing.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Amrit. That was so beautiful. And
Yeah.
it really lifted us to the place that we were talking about. And it felt very special. Thank you very much. I feel if you lived with me and you sang that like that every morning, I wouldn't have any problems. I feel that's true. So like all of this, the work and blah, 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 it would just come, you would seep in, it would seep in by osmosis, by that sort of you're lifting, you know, sometimes we talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and actually it's just a being, that's the music can take us to the place of being, right? Oh, you guys, this was so special and brilliant. And thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your being in the space and your collaboration and communion. It was really, really special. You've made me sound Californian. Such a Londoner.
We've turned you to the dark side.
You've sent me to California in my soul.
I'm like in California channeling. I'm like, oh, well, you got some LA up in here too.
That's right.
You're going all LA, Deborah.
That's
you
what's happened to me.
That's my home.
In the space between us, I felt the power. I don't know what's happening to me.
I love it.
I once had a weird experience in California, though. I went to a yoga class and they did a sound bath, which I wasn't expecting. I didn't know what was going to happen, but we were all lying there on the floor with our eyes shut. And then the teacher started to do this sound bath, which is like you get a bronze bowl or something like that, and then you make a percussive noise with the bowl. And I remembered being born.
I had this experience of like, I could remember being born. It was like, it was so weird. It was like a trance state.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it because I didn't know there was going to be a sound bath. And it just happened and I could feel myself coming out of the womb.
Deborah, don't try mushrooms.
Well, I had kale and mushroom salad before I went in, and it was Venice Beach, so it could have been. But then they said there's this whole sound bath class tomorrow, so I was like coming back for more of that. Who knows what I can remember? Nothing. But I came back with expectation, and I hadn't had any expectation. I didn't know it was going to happen. I just, I swear, it was the weirdest experience. It was just like being born. I was like, oh, I feel it. I'm coming out of the canal.
Well, I hope my son, for one, never goes to a sound bath. Not something I want him to remember.
You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Jessica Fostekew, and our very special guest, Jonelle Lewis, Dr. Stacie CC Graham, Mia Togo, Aisha Nash, with music from Amrit Kaur. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge and produced by Nick Sheldon. The producer was Tom Solinsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Rachel Craftman, Anna Christian, Gina Dicio, and everyone who made this episode happen, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com. Woo! Yay! Woo! Everyone just don't take yourself off mute so that we have a more of a... Otherwise, if you laugh, we don't hear it and it sounds like Amrit's not funny. So what you got to heal on a dock? How do you do that?